I grew up in Australia, but there were no Aboriginal kids at my school. In our history lessons, we were taught about how Captain Cook discovered Australia and how the colonies began. Part of the lesson dealt with how the native Australians were treated and how their lifestyle was drastically altered from that moment on. Even at that early age, I felt a tremendous sense of injustice, and the more I learned about tribal social structures and their belief systems, the more I was able to identify with them. Aboriginal Dreamtime stories are passed down by word of mouth. They're interpretations of how things came to be, but they also teach valuable moral lessons in how to be respectful to the Earth Mother and Sky Father, and to live in harmony with their way. To tribal people such as Aborigines, there is no separate domain called religion. All life is sacred. This undifferentiated truth underlies all existence. Later, when I went to Sunday school, I was shown a very different belief system, which was much harder to grasp. Dreamtime stories are rich in spirit, but no one forces you to believe them as absolute truth. Now I was being told similar stories of snakes encouraging girls to eat apples and 2 of every animal taking a 40-day cruise. But this stuff is supposed to have really happened, and if you don't believe it, you'll go to a place where you'll be on fire for eternity, which is apparently a really long time. So along with Santa Claus, who somehow knew every time I was naughty, God, along with his henchmen, absolutely terrified me. In my 20s, I moved to the UK and learned another very different way of life. It was while I was there that I first became aware of street art. I didn't really get the tagging thing, but the work of Banksy really got me. He was creating a fantasy world in the nooks and crannies of the big city. I particularly loved the rats and chimps and other animals who in Banksy's world were gearing up to take over the city. This is when I first glimpsed the idea that street art was a cool, funny and effective way to remind anyone who cared to notice that a whole other world exists on a slightly different consciousness level than that of the daily rat race. The Aborigines, along with other Stone Age cultures, were the first to use stencils in their art. They held their hand against the wall of the cave and sprayed pigment from their mouth, leaving the image on the surface. Not being confident at drawing and not knowing how to make a stencil, I took the idea and began leaving hand ghost prints using a spray can. I wondered if it would be possible for someone to lift my fingerprint from one of these and track me down, so I even made stickers of my fingerprints. In Los Angeles, street art was everywhere. I became aware of Shepard Fairey and his Obey campaign in Phenomenology. Influenced by this, I tried to create my own character and played with different names that reflect ancient belief systems. Cave artists would paint hunting scenes and animal spirits. They believed that the animal spirits were sacrificing themselves in order to provide them with the food they needed to survive. Tribal cultures identified themselves with these spirits. With that in mind, I made stencils of animals that I think sum up some of the industry people I was dealing with in Los Angeles, and sprayed them onto street signs. Living in Venice Beach, I was exposed to many alternative lifestyles. I began looking at other ancient religions like Hinduism, Taoism, and Zen Buddhism, all of which I believe at their essence are a study of nature. I created a film called Lunch Hour, which showed a man in deep meditation on a downtown sidewalk for 1 hour. Another idea was taking graffiti elements and creating mandalas. I really liked the colors and imagery of Hindu art, which got me thinking about the startling array of different gods and goddesses in their religion. As I began to understand that all these different deities are simply manifestations of the one supreme being, it really hit me how freeing this was and how it resonated with the Dreamtime stories. One of the most popular Hindu images representing God is the half-male Shiva and half-female Shakti. In fact, all their deities appear androgynous, and it seems weird to me now that any religion could deny the divine feminine. The book The Da Vinci Code broke new ground with its revelations about Mary Magdalene, who, according to some interpretations of the Gospels, was not only Jesus' star disciple, but also his bride and the exiled feminine face of Christianity, the Holy Grail itself. From prehistory to today, an extraordinary wealth of goddess images have been created, representing female deities of all types and temperaments from a worldwide array of cultures. An abundance of artworks present the goddess as the ultimate creator and destroyer of life, fertility figure and ruler of love and knowledge. Evidence from archaeology, mythology, and linguistics indicate that the goddess cultures tended to be egalitarian, earth-centered, and non-violent. Our European ancestors also believed in goddesses as much as gods. In fact, the great goddess often appeared more important than the great god. But if she was so important for most of human history, why did she disappear in the West? One of the main reasons is that a few thousand years ago, many goddess-oriented civilizations were destroyed by extremely aggressive Indo-European tribes. These barbarians worshipped aggressive sky gods and had no room for goddesses in their theology. As a result, not only did the male god become supreme, but females lost their sacredness. 20th century men have at last started to realize that when males lost their reverence for that which is female, they also lost something within themselves. The goddess still plays a role in two of the oldest great religions alive today, Taoism and Hinduism. Together with Buddhism, these religions have been described collectively as religions of the earth. Their roots go back tens of thousands of years and have never severed their connectedness with the primordial reality of Mother Earth, the great goddess whose body is the earth. Newer world religions like Judaism, Christianity, and Islam took shape not in the Stone or Bronze Ages, but in the Iron Age when men dominated the societies of Europe and the Near East. These religions are monotheistic, one god, male. Using pop icons and a street art aesthetic, the Goddess series attempts to recognize the swing in the collective consciousness away from these patriarchal concepts and to celebrate the eventual restoration of balance.
You know that he's a sinner.